Dear Naga, please give me the strength to make it through this. Oh, well, if you remember from 5 months ago, I said I was going to devote my next big project to critically reviewing Fire Emblem Fates. And, I got the game on release and played a lot of it. I beat Birthright in a couple weeks and started Conquest right after. That took me significantly longer than a couple of weeks, though not just due to overall difficulty, I'll come back to that later. And then Revelations, which I only finished about a month ago, and then I didn't even want to think of Fates, or Fire Emblem, or SRPGs in general for a long time, though that has passed now. Basically, the more I played of Fates, the less overall I enjoyed it. The more I thought about it, the less overall I enjoyed it. And the more I talked about it with people, the less overall I enjoyed it. And as I went through the game, I just had to force myself more and more just to push on to finish the damn thing. The fact of the matter is, the game has a lot of serious issues which really hold everything down. The story across all 3 routes is crap. The majority of the maps are terrible. Too many of the characters are boring, one-note, infuriating, or all of the above. And all in all, the entire game reeks so much of wasted potential. It reminds me of that other game which... Oh, Naga, take it away, take it away! I really wanted to go in depth with Fates, in the good and the bad. I had perhaps unrealistically high hopes for the game. And while I guess Intelligent Systems did learn a bit from Awakening's shortcomings, they tumbled into a hole, and the only avenue of escape they saw was to keep digging. So I'm going to be doing this a lot differently. I'm just going to speak about whatever comes to my mind as I go through the different routes. How many parts will this end up taking? I have no idea as I'm writing this out. Also, this should be obvious, but from here on out, all spoilers are fair game. But before we dive into negativity, the positives of Fire Emblem Fates. I've touched upon this previously with my best and worst aspects of Fates gameplay video, but I really do like the core mechanics of Fates. I might as well go to say they are my second favorite after Thracia 776. I love the new weapon systems with different strategic options where durability is no longer a concern. I love the wide array of options across what are essentially 12 different weapon types. I can say with certainty that I would prefer keeping this system and expanding on that, fixing all of the issues that are a result of it, rather than just throwing everything out with the bathwater and starting anew. I also think the game's OST is among the best in the series, especially the map themes, which I really do think are the best, doing much more than the characters and the story and setting up urgency and impact for what you're going through chapter to chapter. Although, on a side note, I will say that if I hear Lost in Thoughts all alone one more fucking time, I might accidentally do something that gets me evicted. Then, there are the horrendous sexuality elements that I touched on a year ago. I think Treehouse did an amazing job addressing and fixing a lot of that shit, especially with Soleil. I mean, they couldn't just change the actual aspects of the support, then what I think they did was pretty great. She became one of my most liked characters, despite being a product of Fate's absolutely horrendous offspring mechanics, but we'll get to that later. So now, let's start the actual breakdown with where I started, Birthright. I gotta say, I probably had the most enjoyment in Fates playing this particular route. That's not me saying it was good, just better compared to Conquest and Revelations. The story is at its simplest, which actually led to it being the least infuriating, and most of the maps, again, while simple, have low amounts of bullshit. And overall, I could just ride the flow chapter to chapter. Sometimes it pays not to overcomplicate everything. However, before I go a bit deeper into any of the 3 route stories, I must point out that I think the intro prologue of 5 chapters does an exceptionally poor job of establishing any of the characters and motivations and why you, the player, would want to side with any of them. You basically get a chapter and a half's worth with each family, and they're then tasked with what the game tries to push as an emotionally charged decision to fight for either side or oppose both, and, well, assuming you have the special edition or have already downloaded all 3 routes. I spoke previously about how I felt this to be a terrible decision for a narrative-driven game, locking the different routes between multiple paywalls, and to put a long story short, and that shit isn't just with 3 paths, there's additional, actually quite crucial story content locked away as paid DLC also. So you barely have any time to know either side, and for most players your choice is made for you, which creates a monster of ludonarrative dissonance that is Chapter 6, with the game's rendition of "Don't Say Her Name" blaring out as you proceed with what the game considers a heartbreaking act of fighting against family that you've known for like a few minutes. But then, you're with whatever side you've chosen and the real plot begins. As I stated previously, Birthright's story is simple in nature. Your avatar fights with Hoshido because they resent having been used by Garen to kill their mother, as well as not really caring if they died from the Ganglari's explosion. Honestly, this makes perfect sense. Perhaps too much, as the justification for staying with Nor is nowhere near as well justified. I mean, in the span of these 5 chapters, you've seen Garen try to execute you for insubordination, Garen seemingly try to kill you through hands, and Garen not caring at all if you die through the exploding sword he gives you. I mean, what rational agent would stay in the Norian court after going through all that? And that goes for the other siblings also. They all saw Garen ready to execute the Avatar the first time, and Xander immediately goes full Night Zealot once you stay with Hoshido. I mean, what the hell, guy? You claim to care for the Avatar, but you leave them with the options of let me kill you, or let Daddy try to kill you. Bugger off, you low-rate Elk-Shan. Yeah, you find out why the Norian siblings, especially Camilla, are so awkward when it comes to treating the Avatar, but it's all post-mortem and locked away in the Conquest and Revelation routes. So you go Birthright, and suddenly the people you've known for a few minutes that the game tells you are deeply loyal and loving towards the Avatar are ready to kill them now at the drop of the hat, just because they fear for their life staying by Garen. What the bloody fuck, writers? This is only chapter 6! We're not even a quarter of the way through the fucking story, and it already doesn't make any sense. Well, after this, the story becomes looking for a missing Ryoma and Takumi, who left to push back the Norian invasion. In Chapter 10, the later stumbles towards you seemingly possessed. Psst, epic, oh my god, foreshadowing! Before Azura uses her Gulliver superpowers to remove the brainwashing. By the way, this starts a running trend of Azura's songs being used to do basically whatever the fuck the story needs, and it's never adequately explained anywhere. I mean, I know you could say the same thing about the Radiant series, Heron Gulger, but at least they had different songs for different tasks. No matter what in Fates, it's the same song with the same phrase repeated ad nauseum. I find this to be an incredibly lazy tactic for such a big release. Hell, Azure Striker Gunvolt, a $15 downloadable action platformer that also uses magical singing as a plot device, has 9 different, full-length, distinct songs throughout the game. 11 if you count the English versions of Beyond the Blue and Reincarnation. But whatever, Takumi joins your team, and I guess I should talk about something positive again. Fates finally makes bows worth a damn, and Takumi's a big reason why. He's an early-ish game archer that doesn't have terrible bases or growths, and the Fujin Yumi being super powerful and having a pretty useful ability doesn't hurt. I like that Fates has great bows and archers again. The next chapter introduced one of Fate's few interesting and somewhat original characters, Reina. She's a Kinshi Knight, a new flying unit that uses bows, and is designed as an air superiority class. Hell, that's literally one of the skills they get. Reina is something quite rare in Fire Emblem, or just RPGs in general, a playable, older-ish female character. And she even goes beyond this inherent uniqueness to display a pretty fascinating character obsessed over the thrill of battle and the vanquishing of enemies. Unfortunately, Intelligent Systems shits on this by restricting Reina to the most arbitrary and infuriating ways possible, by giving her only one support option, the Avatar. This makes absolutely no goddamn sense. Orochi and Reina were both retainers of Makoto, but apparently, because the former isn't a pre-promote, she gets to have dozens of supports and fleshed out interactions. All Reina gets is a single ho-hung support with the Avatar and the occasional My Castle line. She doesn't even talk to Orochi at all. What a joke. And Reina isn't even the only victim of this in the game. And, you know, since it's on my mind now, I guess let's talk about supports a bit. Since their current inception in Sealed Blade, supports have served a dual purpose, character-defining balance measures and character-building exercises. They offered insights into various characters that wouldn't be possible without shoehorning them into main story moments, and to help differentiate based on who can support who and what the bonuses should be. Some units end up defined not just by what they can do, but by who they support with. I mean, Clearian is a fine unit and all, but I know many, including myself, who usually bring her to nearly every map because she makes Rutger even more of a killing machine. This all changed with Radiant Dawn's decision to let everyone support anyone. A move that opened up a lot of gameplay opportunities, but seemingly required the removal of the character-building aspects of supports. I'm among those who disliked this change, though I wouldn't say I hated it, but Intelligent Systems quickly realized how unpopular this is, because they quickly revised this decision for Heroes of Light and Shadow. Yet when Awakening came around, IS decided to kind of combine the two. The result of this is most characters in Awakening and Fates have huge support libraries, and for the purposes of child rearing, nearly every opposite-sex support is a possibility. and affinities were done away with, leading to every support just adding fixed bonuses when active. But in my mind, and in many others, the primary casualty of this is once again the character building. Seemingly because of the too vast amount of supports, most of them are boring and devoid of any real development. The few gems that stand out among both games are nothing compared to the level of, say, Klein and Dieck, Lynn and Wallace, or Jill and Miss supports. Most are just supports for the sake of having supports. I'm not looking at, just going to having everyone getting supports or no one getting supports. Just give every character an ample amount with characters they could logically interact with, and do them well. It worked up until Path of Radiance. Don't fix what ain't broke. Anyway, the next chapter has you go to this weird-looking opera house, where Azura uses her magical singing to turn Garen into a meme, and then you have the only not kill boss / route enemy chapter in Fates. Get the avatar to the escape tile. What? That's it? I mean, look at this map. You can just have a flyer carry there in a couple turns. So much for an intimidating chapter. I mean, you'd lose out on a couple items, but seriously, Intelligent Systems, did you fall asleep here or something? What's doubly infuriating here is that there's another opportunity for something interesting dying for a lack of oxygen coming from the presence of Garen as a Lord British postulate. It is apparently possible, though completely ludicrous outside grinding or castle battle characters, to just kill him here. I mean, wouldn't it be neat if you could just end the game here as a special conclusion? No one dies, everyone's fine, not canon, but hey, if you want to go for it. Yeah, it would never happen because Intelligent Systems is worried about that one weirdo who will always complain about being cheated out of gameplay because they actually went and did this. But in my mind, I'm only considering this because the rest of the game is so infuriating. Oh, and Xander is here also. He and his posse actively try to kill you. Sibling love, eh? Also, said posse includes Laszlo. And, oh god damn it. You know what? I don't even care. I'm just gonna spoil the DLC story of Hidden Truths as well. He, Selena, and Odin are really Inigo, Severa, and Owain from Awakening. That's not the spoiler, I'm getting to it. The good half of Anankos' personality brought them here specifically to help the Avatar kill his evil side, who is the main boss of Revelations. That's why they're all retainers to the Norian royals, so they could get closer to the Avatar.
Objection!
So, why are they trying to kill you here? Why do they try to kill you in other chapters? Why did they not defect with you? Why did Intelligent Systems decide to lock this actually important and interesting story development behind DLC? And why do they suck so hard at managing plot holes in their own goddamn story? Fuck, we're not even halfway through Birthright.